Hi, guys. Welcome to GraceFully Educated podcast, where we blend faith, wisdom, and learning with grace. I'm your host, Carmela Carter, and I have the privilege of sitting with Miss Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Shannon, tell us what brought you to the field of education. How did it even happen?
So I think it started, both my parents were teachers,
Okay.
and I kind of saw the life that they led.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I went with them to schools. They taught during the day and they taught night school. So,
Mm.
like back in the 70s, they would call what we now call ESL, they would call the foreign born. So, my mom basically taught people that came from other countries to speak English,
Mhm.
and my father helped people get their GEDs in the evening. So, during the day, they were at the school and then they'd go back at night. And I just love to feel the halls of a school has just a good vibe. It's
Right.
good energy, and I just feel also that if you kind of want to know, take the temperature of the world, the nation,
Mm.
go to the schools.
That's
That's
good.
that's where we know how our families are dealing with things.
Right.
That's how we take a temperature on the areas that you're living. I work in Trenton. I've also worked in Camden.
Trenton,
That's
that's where I'm
right.
from.
That's right. And you get an idea of what the community needs
Mhm.
through working in the school. And I always knew eventually I'd end up in a school. I didn't start out that way, but I knew eventually I was going to get there.
Wow. So, what's your journey to education?
Um, so I started out as a counselor. I worked under Dr. Juanita Johnson Brooks as a counselor for survivors of sexual abuse, and
Wow.
mostly to Spanish speaking children and families.
Wow.
I did that for 15 years, and then um, it gets heavy, that field of
Mm-hmm.
sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I have my master's thesis was on sexual abuse, and um, so that's a field I know a lot about, but constantly day in, day out hearing disclosures, and it can be a lot.
Right.
So I
Right.
transitioned to domestic violence in
Mm.
Camden Hispanic Family Center, where I worked there for 2 years. Um, and then something happened. I had my son, and my son was going through a process of possibly being diagnosed. He didn't have a diagnosis yet of autism.
Wow.
And I was praying. I actually made like a vision list and I
Mm.
put it on a mirror in my bedroom. And one of the things that I put was that God would give me a job that allowed me to have a good balance of family and work,
Right.
where I would feel my soul fed, but I also knew my priority was having to work with my son. I have a daughter as well, but she's older. Um, so I went back to school at 39 to get my school counselor license.
Oh, wow.
And then when I think about it now, I was like, oh my, I don't know how if I would have the energy now to do that. At 39, you
Right.
have a little, but I did it. And I prayed that year for that job. And I can say that it happened. And what's
Wow.
interesting is if you work through the school system,
Right.
you have to go through AppyTrack and fill out your applications. And a lot of times nothing happens.
Right. Right.
I ended up getting a call from someone while I was at Hispanic Family Center as domestic violence counselor, and the call was from a person, a principal. Now he's not assistant superintendent. He's some type of superintendent in Trenton, and he called for an interview. I was like, that's interesting. I never quite knew how he got my name. They were
Mm.
looking for a bilingual counselor, and I interviewed, and I got the job in Trenton, and it was pretty amazing because it went
Wow.
from me thinking, putting it on the vision board every day where I saw it, a vision list, because I'm a big list maker, praying about it, and then I got the job, and it did provide me that balance that I needed, so
Right.
that if my son needed something, it's very different working in an office than working in a school.
Right.
So
Right. I love how he did that for you. It was like you were able to, I'm sure, take the traumas that you saw in sexual uh,
mm-hmm,
abuse victims, domestic violence victims, and now into education.
mm-hmm.
How have you been able to take some of your experience there and institute it into what you're doing now, or what you started to do?
So the big terminology now in schools is restorative practices and trauma informed approaches, and so I've worked a lot with families and children that have been through trauma.
Mm.
And so I saw it from the private, area of my office to now going into the schools. And one of the jobs of the school counselor, I really believe, is understanding how does trauma impact the learning process and what's my role
Oh,
in
that's
that,
good. That's
right?
good, Shannon.
Because we don't learn so easily when we're afraid and we're in survival mode. So I hope that I'm sort of a bridge between the family, the principal, the teacher, the student. I'm there to help provide resources. And it's helped me because unfortunately, a lot of the referrals I got for the sexual abuse came from the Mercer County area. So it's kind of came full circle. Yeah.
Wow. So you said something about trauma-informed counseling impacts education. Could you
Absolutely.
speak a little bit more to that?
Sure. So I think that, let me give you a couple of examples. This year, and I noticed it's now, I wish it were an outlier, but it's more of the norm. Every year that I've been working, I have a child that loses a parent, and a parent that's fairly young.
Wow.
And
How long have you been a counselor?
well, in the Trenton District, 10 years.
So
So
in 10 years.
yeah, every year someone passes unexpectedly, either of an illness that probably was untreated because they didn't have the health care they needed,
Wow.
right? Or domestic violence. So unfortunately, this year we had a young mother who, came from another country, and I guess she let things go. She didn't have access. People think, oh, I don't want to get political, but people think, oh, they just get free health care. No, that's not really how it works. So people don't go to the doctors. And then by the time she went, her organs were all shutting down because of an infection.
Wow.
And her son was in 4th grade. So I had that. And then a month prior, I had a little boy who I had met with the mom because he was having some behavioral issues. And we were like, well, what's going on? Is there something at home different? She goes, well, my boyfriend is no longer with me. Anyway, that boyfriend came in and killed her and the older sister while he was in the house. So do you think that these children are going to be able to learn and process information as they should with that heaviness?
Right.
Think about us as adults, where
Right.
we have more of the tools that equip us to deal with things. So the learning process looks differently. What does it look like? When that child gets overstimulated, he might go on the floor and have a tantrum or want to run out of the room.
Right.
So then the school counselor, and we also have a social worker, will work with him, we'll work with the families, and it's about teaming. So we have a support system, particularly for the little boy, where we have a CMO worker in place, we have the therapist in place, and we all work together to help him. But that's a long road, but these are things that have to be considered. And sadly, sometimes our students in schools like Trenton or Camden suffer a lot more of that.
And you know what? As educators, sometimes, like, I love that you're a counselor, right? And sometimes we have this idea, if we're in class, guys have to think about what she's saying. We're in class and we're expected to have a certain outcome with the entirety of our class, right? And if we're expected to have a certain outcome, we're not thinking almost individualized, right? And so we're like, this student is just failing. And it's unfortunately that they still have to just fail. But the failing is not due to them, probably not due to them not comprehending the information. It is due to the trauma that's attached to what they're dealing with.
Yeah, the trauma affects the brain and the development of the brain as well. So it's interesting because when you think about the classroom, I never forget the fact that administrators and superintendents and the state puts a lot of pressure on teachers. The test outcomes, the test scores, right? And the teacher is almost like, I always think of the classroom as like a little fishbowl. It's like a microcosm of the world.
Right.
And in that year, that teacher is the leader of that classroom, the facilitator, and whoever she is kind of trickles down to the classroom.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
And so it's like a family. It really is like a family. It could be dysfunctional at times. We are human, so our moods are dependent on how we respond and we react to things, right? But I feel for teachers because they still have that expectation. Why aren't you getting these test scores up? And I think that we have to be considerate of the whole picture and what we can do to help our children.
Right.
Because the reality is they do go through a lot more trauma.
Right. And so how do you as a counselor speak to the educator from the student that you're actually helping? Like, what does that look like? What does that unity or help look like?
So me personally, I'm a counselor that I give my cell number to all my teachers. So I'm pretty much accessible to them any time of the day.
What grade?
I'm right now 4th, 5th, 6th.
Okay.
So they can text me and they can say, he's having a meltdown, he's having a bad day. Or a lot of times the little ones will just spit out words, inappropriate words and things like that. So they text me, then I'll go over, I'll have a conversation with the teacher. Then I'll usually take the student to my office, we'll talk. Then I'll reconvene with the teacher. And a big part of this is our teachers in Trenton are awesome. They get it.
Yes. Sure
I want to say that the teachers deserve a pat on the back because they understand. And so I meet with them, we talk about, and there's always a backstory. Well, this is what happened today, right?
Mm.
And then here's the piece of the puzzle that sometimes can be challenging is bringing the parents or family in.
I agree.
Yeah. So if you talk about challenges, I would say that's one of the biggest challenges. It's not about blame or judgment, but it is a reality.
Right.
Because the parents are going through things too. And they may come into it feeling that you're judging them. And when you feel judged, how do we react? We get defensive. We're ready. Like,
Okay.
what? You?
And
I'm not
that's the
going to listen
truth.
to you,
And
right?
that's the truth.
And so that's where the challenge is, because what happens is sometimes we have to find creative ways to get over the obstacle, that obstacle of mistrust to the counselor, to the principal, to the school, to really a community that probably feels forgotten or probably has felt like, I've heard this before, you care, but you really don't care, that kind of thing. So you kind of have to listen and try to, this is where God comes in for me, is to understand what's really going on beneath that parent's anger. Right. What is it? It's sadness, it's fear, because they love their kid the same way I love my kid and you love your children, right? But when we call to say, hey, your child is doing this or that, can you help us out here? Right. And another thing, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself, is a lot of times families aren't open to counseling or therapy outside of school. Yeah. We can provide those services, but you have to believe that that's okay. Right. If you think therapy is something that's for, oh, you're telling me there's something wrong with my child, that's very hard.
Yeah. Because therapy is not, like, I've been in therapy forever. It seems like on and off, and it's not that. You need therapy because I grew up in Trenton, and I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And because of therapy, I've been able to overcome a lot of the traumas that I've experienced, which helped me to, in my career, in my family, in my children, to be a better person, the better version of who I am. And sometimes I think communicating that to parents is like, I want your child to be the better version of who I know they are. I want you to be the better version of who I know you are. And saying it without them feeling judgment, like, well, who do you think that you are? This is my better person. Yeah. So it's like, no, there's more to you, than the defensive part of you. Yeah. Shannon, how do you blend faith with what you do?
It's, for me, because I've been a Christian for a very, very long time, I don't know how I would have been able to survive without it, because it's like a guide, it's like a quiet guide within me. Right. It's kind of a inner conversation I'm constantly having.
A dialogue.
It's a dialogue. And I know that it's the Holy Spirit talking through me, because listen, I'm human. If sometimes someone's coming at me and yelling at me, I'm having a bad day, my response might be to get defensive too. Right. And then that's where God comes in and says, Shannon, take a breath. This parent is suffering. What you're hearing of the anger has nothing to do with you. So now how can I respond in love and in mercy? The same way I would want someone to respond to me. Have I always been successful? No. But that is an inner dialogue that's constantly taking place. I go to God in prayer a lot. So it's there. It's a presence within me constantly.
So when you I love that you said that, there's a constant prayer. I mean, there's a constant presence in you. Have you ever had the opportunity to share your faith with anybody, or how does that work at school?
In school, so I have to be careful, right? Because it is a public school. But if someone brings up the conversation that, yes, they are.
That's how it happens for me too.
Yeah. Then you've opened the door.
Right.
And it's the same with the children. Right. If they come in with, talking about their spiritual life, then that is something that they lean on. Then now I feel it's okay to talk about that. Yeah. And that always gives me a sense of hope.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because then you're like, okay, God, I heard this child or this parent say your name. So here's my way in, right? Yeah. And instituting faith. So do you find it more difficult as a counselor dealing with parents or children or teachers in education? Who's the most difficult to deal with?
For me, I'm going to be honest with you. Like I love the kids, because I think, I hope I don't get in trouble saying this, but I do believe that kids are born with a purity. And I think what happens is we as adults kind of sometimes sprinkle in our little problems
onto the child.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. And I love teachers. I grew up with parents as teachers, and my experience with teachers is wonderful. Right. If I'm honest, a lot of times it's the parents.
I just needed somebody else to be
Okay.
in agreement with me.
I mean, but it's, again, I love the parents and I can see that they care. I just, the thing is that I have to be careful and not to judge, because the way caring looks to me will look different to somebody else.
Right.
We all show our care in different ways.
Yeah.
I could probably be annoying as a parent. I have a kid who's he's 20 now, but I'm sure a lot of the teachers and principals were like, oh my goodness, here comes another email from Mr. DeLizio. We don't, but they're such good people. They understood where I was coming from.
Right.
But I could see how I could be annoying, because I was kind of that mom that was always being the advocate for my son. Right. But, yeah, it's really dealing with patience with the parents a lot of times.
I think for my journey of education, I've been in education for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, 20 plus years now. And I love it, right? But I think my hardest journey has been with parents, because I believe that, and it's no fault to their own, but society honestly kind of put that educators against children or against parents.
Yes.
And because we've built this blind wall, the parents come already on a defense.
Yes.
Already. I'm a parent. I have 5 children. And if any of my kids' teachers are watching, I'm sorry. Because I've been that parent. But now I'm just like, it's very difficult to deal with a irate parent. So I'm always trying to hear them, understand them, and pray in a moment like, God, help me with this child who or with this parent who is irate and just being who they grew up to be. And so I guess I want to ask you, what are some things that your school does or your community does to help parenting? Because I hear people have like parenting classes for parents. Like, is there anything like that you're involved in?
We have at our school, most schools have parent liaisons.
Okay, great.
And so we will do different fairs or community events at our schools, where parents are always welcome to come. I also work with parents. I try to provide them with resources. So if a parent has unstable housing, if a parent can't make their rent, if a parent needs free tutoring, if a parent is open to mental health counseling, I will sit down with them and walk them through that. So, we have somebody that works with within the district to provide housing. And a lot of times, like you've heard of Perform Care.
Yep. I love Perform Care.
I will sit with the parent while they call for that. Of course, Catholic Charities does a lot of great things. Again, and it's when the parent shows that they're willing. The challenge is when the parent doesn't. There's the challenge is when the parent's not willing. How do we work around that? I work with a very skilled principal. I want to give a shout out to my principal.
Shout out to you,
Jennifer Santiago, who is very masterful in the way she's able to get a parent to go from being angry and defensive to, okay, I'm in a place where I'm ready to listen. It's pretty cool to watch.
That's a skill.
It is a skill.
Jennifer, teach me your ways.
And I am still learning that. Like, I'll watch her, I'm like, wow, that was cool the way she just did that. Where she took a parent from here and they calmed down. Now, there are some parents that have mental health issues that they're not getting help for. That's something else. And the sad part is that we can't fix everything.
No, we can't.
We can help. Sometimes it's putting a Band-Aid on it. But I do think the school is there, of course, to provide an education. I think school is big to help children learn how to socialize. But also, we should be a support for that community.
Right.
I had a student yesterday come into my office, and he has some unstable housing, and he's a 6th grader who we've had a lot of issues with behavior, and he was sobbing. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, I don't want school to end. I don't want to be home. And that's common. A lot of our, like, I wish that someone would do a study on this, but I have noticed that a lot of our biggest behavioral issues happen right before dismissal on a Friday afternoon or before the kids are going to go on vacation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me think back.
I'm sure you notice 10 minutes before the dismissal something happens.
Well, after lunch for me.
Oh yeah, not at that. Lunch is that transition time.
My goodness! After lunch, if you're an educator, after lunch the turn volume goes sky high, and you're like, okay, so what do I do? How do I keep them engaged? And so that's difficult. But how do you? I wanted to ask you a question about your counseling and your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
How do you blend, or is counseling your purpose, right? How do you blend purpose with counseling, or is counseling a part of your purpose?
I actually think counseling is my purpose.
I love that.
It's weird because I was thinking back, you know how when you're little, they ask you to fill out these things of what you want to be when you grow up?
Mm-hmm.
I had written, I think, a psychologist for children.
Wow.
And originally I started out as school psychology, and then I changed it because school psychology, anyone who knows, works in child studies, a lot of testing, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I really want to sit with a kid and get to know them. I also think, like, growing up, I don't know how you felt, but we don't give kids that, I mean, in my house, I did. Like, my parents did always ask me how I was feeling, but a lot of times kids don't get that chance to really express and be heard.
Yeah, yeah.
And particularly when I was thinking about when I was working with victims of sexual abuse, survivors, but a lot of times when the child would disclose the alleged perpetrator, they know how to talk. Right?
I've been there.
They know how to talk. In Spanish, we use the word labiosa. Like, they're very smooth talkers. Oh, what? I couldn't. Please, I love this child. And the children aren't equipped, right? And I have felt it was my big part of my purpose was to be an advocate for that child.
Right.
Like, no, this is what, because, you know, a lot of times when the process of taking in a child to do the interview process for, if they make a statement, they might say, oh, well, the child wasn't consistent in with their statement, so they get rid of it. They get rid of but who's consistent every time they make a statement? Only people that are telling a lie because they've memorized it, right? But when we look back at our memories, like, let's think of one particular memory. Are you going to always, every single time, say that the exact same way?
Right.
No.
Not unless it's rehearsed.
You know? Exactly, unless it's rehearsed, right?
Wow.
So I do, to answer your question, I do feel that was my purpose. Nice. Absolutely.
So I hate our time to end, but we're coming down to the end. Okay. And because we're coming down to the end, I really would love that you would, if you could just speak some sort of encouragement to school counselors, to educators, just whatever is on your heart, to let them know they're equipped for this assignment and not to give up.
So I'm in this with you. I love teachers. I love school counselors, principals, because we're all in this together. And what I would say is this: those days that you feel burnt out, those days when you lack inspiration, remember something, that is a temporary feeling. The school, your relationship with your students, any long-term relationship, whether it be a marriage or with your children, there are times when you're going to feel burnt out. There are times when you are going to feel like, oh, where's my inspiration? It's not realistic to think I'm always going to feel inspired. Wow. Okay? Right. But know, like Carmela says, know your purpose. If God has spoken to you and said, this is my purpose, then don't wait for the feeling. Keep going until that feeling comes up again. Think about life. Do we always feel like going to the gym? No. Okay?
Say no.
Do we always feel good with our partners or our No, that is life, because we are human. Right. But please recognize that you are valued, that the children need you, and children are so forgiving. Let me just say that. Yes, much more forgiving than adults are.
Yes, they are.
They love you because you show up. So don't wait for that feeling. Just keep moving and keep going. And I thank you. I'm very thankful to have this job.
Yeah.
I thank God that he provided me this opportunity. And I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Conway, because he's the person that called me for the job, and I appreciate
Shout out Dr. Conway. Okay. Make sure you send him this video because your name is mentioned. Shannon, you are such an inspiration.
Thank you.
You're such an inspiration. And I love your passion for what you do. Because I think everybody can agree that we heard your passion, we heard your desire, and we heard purpose.
Yes.
Speak through you today.
Yes.
In the role of a counselor. And our children in Trenton needs it.
Yes.
The children in Trenton need you.
Thank you.
So as the little girl from Trenton, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And see what Trenton produces? This awesomeness right here. Seriously. It's a wealth of experience that she has now to give to the world.
Yeah. But it was because of people like her. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Shannon, again, for joining us here at GraceFully Educated. And I don't know about you, but I felt like we blended faith, we blended wisdom through this wonderful woman, and we learned with Grace on today. Thank you guys for joining us. If you like this content, make sure that you subscribe to our channel because we have more people coming on, amazing educators coming on. Also, we have a Facebook community that you can join called GraceFully Educated, and we would love to have you. Have an amazing day, and we love you. Bye.